Okay, hi everybody. We are here live on Facebook. I want to give people an opportunity to ask me some questions. Most of you, my friends, know that I am running for state senate out here in Washington State, and I'm running in the 48th legislative district. That is Bellevue, Redmond, and Kirkland. And we're getting to the end of the campaign. Ballots actually drop next week on the 20th, and the election is November 7th. So we are really ramping up. We've got a lot of really exciting things going on, some events. We're doorbelling, of course, phone banking, and then we have an event tomorrow that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. For those that don't know you very well, my name, of course, is Michelle Darnell. I am a mom of 4. I've been politically active for, almost a decade now. I'm a foreclosure defense paralegal. I help homeowners who are trying to negotiate their mortgages post-recession. A lot of people are still dealing with that situation, so I advocate for them. We also practice family law and criminal law, and as a consequence of my work in that arena, in the judicial environment, I noticed that there's not a lot of justice. No money, no justice. And so because of that, I've gotten politically involved because I think that we need to change some of the laws. We need to start responding better to the problems in our communities. We need to empower people. Government, in my opinion, is getting too big and powerful. We have too big to fail corporations that are, for the most part, in control of things, and I want to be a voice against that. So I'm running for state senate out here, and some of the issues of my district, taxation, of course, we are getting hit very hard. Property tax, tolls, tabs. Seems like every time I turn around, they're passing some sort of a tax. There's been a lot of talk about increasing taxation to respond to McCleary. McCleary is a Supreme Court decision out here in Washington that basically found that our state was not providing amply for education. So for the last 3 cycles, we've talked a lot about, and I say 3 cycles because I've run for office 3 times now, we've talked a lot about how we're going to fund McCleary. I think we've gone a long way to fund McCleary in the budget that just passed this last session, but as I've said 3 cycles now, I think we need to not only fund McCleary, but we also need to talk about what can we do to make sure that we're spending that money most efficiently, and that we have a system that is really empowering teachers, empowering parents, and empowering and providing for our kids the best educational opportunity that we can provide to them. So with that, we have a big event in Bellevue tomorrow. Betsy DeVos, who happens to be our Secretary of State, not Secretary of State, Secretary of Education, is going to be in town. And so we thought this was a good opportunity to go out and meet people across the spectrum. There are actually going to be quite a few people who are there in opposition of Betsy DeVos and in opposition of what we call choice in education, choice, charter, vouchers, that sort of thing. These people sort of believe that we need to keep with the status quo, if you will, and we just basically need to fund the system better. Some of us are going to be there representing the other perspective, which is that we need more choice in education, and we need to allow parents more options. And so that's sort of what we're going to be there to talk about. We're going to have some of these signs, free our teachers. I say free our teachers because, as I'm out doorbelling and campaigning, I talk to a lot of teachers, and what teachers are telling me is that the money is circulating at the top. It is not making it into the classroom. I was doorbelling just a few weeks ago, talked to a teacher who told me she's literally spending 2 hours a day to comply with these top-down mandates like Common Core. So I want, my philosophy is we need to really empower teachers. Who knows better than teachers or parents what our kids really need? Not a far government bureaucracy, be it in DC or really Olympia. When elected as senator, I would hope to be a voice for really freeing things up and putting the power right back into the classroom. So that's why I have the sign there, free our teachers. In top-down mandates like Common Core, I think that we need to consider opting out of Common Core. I think that it's not having to live up to those standards and binding our teachers to those standards. We have an environment where teachers are often teaching to the test, if you will. With that said, and introduce my friend Carson here, Tellerico. Carson, you want to come on in here?
How's it going?
Hey, it's going well. I'm going to move over just a little bit here, make room for you. So Carson is 24 years old. His mom happens to be a teacher. He grew up in Cle Elum, and the reason that I brought him is I just wanted to kind of get his perspective. I'm actually 47 years old. I've been out of the school system a while, so I have that perspective. But you're still, you still probably remember the way things, were in high school. You're going to college now, right?
Right, yeah. Currently I'm at school at Seattle Pacific University. And I had gone I did 2 quarters at UW. I did most of my associates at Bellevue College, and then 1 quarter at a school in Santa Barbara. So I've been around.
Now, we were talking earlier just about the difference between how you felt in high school and how you feel now, once you've graduated, and just the different environment. Can you kind of talk about a little bit about that? I mean, we talked about it earlier, but just, you were telling me that you felt like high school was kind of stifling, if you will?
Right, yeah. I felt like in high school nothing was challenging to me. It was sort of just, you had to get through it and do your things, and once you're done, you're like, okay, finally now I can go start to sort of chase my passions, I guess. But even though I would have wanted to do that before my graduation day, and so that's when I started to do sort of producing things, music things, because that's what I wanted to do with my career. I started to do that on my own, but never through the public schooling that I had.
You were telling me earlier that you felt like you sort of had to postpone that that portion of your life until you got out of school from about sophomore year, did you say?
Yeah. I think that sophomore year was, I knew I was going to do something with music, and especially music production, and at that time, all sort of the home music studio person that was really gaining popularity with Macklemore and stuff.
Oh yeah. Have you ever met him?
I haven't met him. But it's just sort of, he did it all on his own, and no label or anything. And
didn't Justin Bieber get started or something
like that?
He
I think he was YouTube videos was his big thing, and everybody was like, wow, this kid can really sing, and so, but it's that sort of same idea where now anyone can do these things, and to say that in 2 years time you are at such a different point that it's just unintelligent to think that way. I think what could, I understand waiting until you graduate, but sophomore year, I think that you can really start to map out what you want to do with the rest of your life,
and really become more engaged in the process yourself and making your own choices.
Right.
You were telling me earlier that your mom teaches, and she teaches 4th grade.
Yeah.
And you were kind of talking just about, things she's talked to you about, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, she has a hard time with trying to teach the way she wants to teach or do the things she wants to do when she feels like there's things that she has to teach, and if she doesn't get to those, in the time that she has with the students, they're not going to be able to pass the test that requires them to get to the next grade. And then if they don't do that, that reflects bad on her as well.
And is her job in jeopardy
I
if
mean,
she doesn't?
It's like they definitely get reprimanded if their students aren't performing the way that they need to be.
So does she feel like she's like teaching to the test?
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I would say that she definitely feels that way. And then the parents aren't really on her side because they feel that the test is what she should be teaching them towards, sort of.
The parents feel like the test is what she should be teaching them?
I think that sometimes the parents believe that that's like, if it was the standard, then that should be, then why aren't you getting them to their standard? But then they don't see all what goes into the whole process of it. So yeah, I think that she tells me that she's upset, but she wouldn't tell anyone to become a teacher right now.
She wouldn't?
No, and that's upsetting to her, but she just doesn't believe that that's something until there's a change in the system of the public school system. She doesn't.
Has she ever mentioned what sort of change she might like to see?
She doesn't. Not really. Not really to me. But I do think that she understands that there shouldn't be one sort of cut and dried way that to do everything. Every student is different, and they should be sort of dealt with as such.
How long has your mom been teaching?
She started when I was in because she didn't get her teaching degree till later in her sort of career. So she started teaching when I was in 6th grade. So I'd say probably 12 years or so.
Has she, and maybe you don't even know this, but has she seen a change during that period of time, gravitating towards this teaching to the test, or was that happening before she got in?
I think it was happening. I think that it's gotten a lot more extreme since she's been teaching. And she's 4th grade, which is one of the I think that's one year that you need to pass the sort of state test. I'm not sure what they call it now. It was the WASL when I took it.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember getting my kids to opt out of the WASL.
Right.
So I was politically active back then. So, just from your observation, I mean, what, we talked earlier about the fact that, you'll probably want to have children someday. What would you like to see for your children in terms of the education system? What sort of changes, make sense to you?
I was hoping that they could sort of start to decide their pathways earlier than I was able to. And I think that if they were able to just sort of of course you gotta have your history or whatever, but if you have sort of just a goal in mind while you're going through school, it makes it a lot better. It would probably be a much more enjoyable experience for them if they looked forward to going to school every day rather than seeing it as like a chore. I think that that's what I would want for them.
school is a chore now?
No,
Do you enjoy
no,
school?
I really enjoy school. That's what I had told you, that is it once I got to choose my classes, or I felt like I was taking classes that actually interested me, I really enjoy school now, and I never really enjoyed it until I got out of high school, because I wasn't challenged in high school, and because I should have been doing things that interested me more than just what I was told to do and required to do.
Well, that makes sense. Well, that was a good conversation. I appreciate what you have to say there. I like to get a different perspective. You know, it's still sort of fresh in your mind, and you do a fantastic job here, by the way, setting all this stuff up. I guess you're training Joey on this. Is that right? So, yeah, running doing whatever he's doing here. So thanks a lot, Carson.
All right,
I had
thank
a
you,
good talk with
Michelle.
you. Yeah. So anyway, we were just talking a little bit about education. Does anybody have any questions for me? I notice a few people on the thread here. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in. I'll do my best to answer. So we were talking about education because tomorrow we are meeting at the Bellevue Library at 4:30, and we were going to have signs like this, and we're going to be out there to be a voice for what I like to call freedom in education. We want to empower our teachers, and education is a really significant issue. I mean, during my campaign, I talk a little bit about our taxation system, transportation, because transportation here on the east side is very bad. We've got a significant housing problem. The average cost of a house here in Kirkland is about $700,000. I would say that we have less of a homelessness problem and more of an inventory problem. I'm not going to talk a lot about education, but you can go to my website, michelle4washington.org, and that's Michelle number 4 Washington.org, and I talk about my policy positions relative to those other issues. But education, in my opinion, is probably the kingpin issue. We have a system right now by which really only the wealthiest kids or families can afford the very best schools. My district actually enjoys pretty good schools, and I would say that's in part because of the fact that we have higher incomes here, where they can afford more of the private schools. I believe we have something like in Bellevue alone, I think there's 37 private schools. Don't quote me on that, but I was researching that the other day. But we have a lot of private schools in this community, so I think what that does is it actually creates some competition. And I think that actually brings the level of quality up for all of the schools. So I guess my approach is, I really think that we should expand in such a way that, no matter what socioeconomic background children come from, that everyone would have an opportunity to have an excellent education. I mean, when we talk about income inequality, I think it starts with education. And, the overall philosophy right now seems to be, from most of the legislators and the candidates that I talk to, is that we need to dump more and more money into the system that we have now. And the reality is we spend over $14,000 federal, state, and local per child per year, and 1 in 4 kids does not graduate. Still, even more are equipped with a little more than to go to college and take on student debt. I think we can do better than that, and frankly, I think that we have enough legislators in Olympia right now that are more than happy to increase our taxes via different means. There's some talk about a capital gains tax. The property tax per last budget is going to be it is increased. There's a little bit of talk about an income tax, which the capital gains tax, in my opinion, is basically a delayed income tax, and you're basically taking money out of our local community, sending it up to Olympia to come back to us pennies on the dollar. But also, we have plenty of legislators in Olympia that think the solution to this problem is to drop more and more money into an outdated and I would argue broken system. We basically have an 1830s style desks in a row model, and we really haven't innovated. Not to say that all the schools are that way. There are some schools that are exploring some different models, but overall that seems to be what's going on, and that's leaving our teachers pretty much handcuffed because they're teaching to these top-down mandates, and it's not inspiring to our kids, and I think that we can do a lot better. So I want to be a voice for really starting that conversation. Some people think that libertarians, because of some of our ideas that, and some libertarians are pretty extreme. I tend to be a pragmatic libertarian. I'm not talking about totally dismantling the entire education system overnight. What I'm talking about is, what can we do to sort of move from here to there? And, when I'm elected senator, one of the first things that I would do relative to this issue and other issues like the transportation and housing issue would be to reach out to stakeholders from various perspectives. This is going to include teachers, administrators, non-teaching personnel, parents, and possibly even some students, and really put together some policy advisory groups and really talk about these, talk about how can we improve the education system. Might it mean more support for charter schools? Might it mean opportunity scholarships, a voucher program, education savings accounts? I'm not sure. Different models around the country that are being implemented and explored, and some of them are working quite well. And I would like to, look at those models, look and see what's working well, and, take baby steps. So I really want to start that conversation. I think we need to. I've run 3 times now, and we have been talking about the same problems over and over and over again. And so with that, I would welcome you tomorrow. We're going to be meeting again in Bellevue, at the Bellevue Library at 4:30, and then we're going to go from there over to the Bellevue Hyatt. That is actually where Betsy DeVos is going to be. They're having the Washington Policy Center is having an event there that evening at about 6 o'clock, and we just want to be there to support the idea of choice in education. That is not to say that I'm 100% in support of Betsy DeVos per se, but it is definitely going to be an opportunity for anyone who is interested in improving education from across the across the spectrum. It's going to be a good opportunity for us to represent what we believe, and I believe that we need more freedom in education, we need more choice in education, and we need to work to empower teachers, parents, and students in Washington State. So with that, I think I'm going to sign off here. If you want to know more information about my campaign, you can go to michelleforwashington.org. We're coming to the end of the campaign, and I would appreciate your support, financial support, volunteer support. We have a lot of voters to reach very quickly, so I've got a pretty large team, and we're working really hard to make this happen and to finish strong. So thank you so much for joining us live, and please continue to share the campaign with your friends and your family. I enjoy the engagement on Facebook. I enjoy the conversation, and I would just encourage you to be the change you wish to see. Thank you so much.